Hey friends, I am so glad you stopped by for today's video. I have who has become one of my favorite authors to talk about with you today. The book we're going to talk about and author is The Mastermind by Dylan Allen. It is part of the 1001 Dark Nights thing. Is it a series? Is it a anthology? I am not quite sure. I need to figure that out. I should know because I'm sharing it with you, so forgive me. This is the second time she has contributed to it, and I will of course include the videos I have done on Dylan's books in the description box below so you can go check them out. But in the meantime, let's talk about The Mastermind. I have been reading Dylan for a few years now. I just saw that she said she's been publishing for 5 years. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been that long. I have read quite a few of her books. This book takes place in her Rivers Wilde world, which I think I've read all of those so far. I love this world. She definitely grabbed my attention with the Rivers Wilde. I love the saga-ish feeling that this world of hers has, the kind of family saga. I love that she's continued to write characters that intertwine with the previous books. And we got that, of course, with The Mastermind as well. A little bit out of the box in Omar and Jules, but we see characters from previous books in here, which I freaking love when authors do that. I love when their worlds interconnect and everything. I know it's a lot for them to keep track of, but as a reader, I always enjoy that. Dylan starts the book with a dedication that made me take pause and it just hit me emotionally. And so of course I have to share it with you. It reads, "To everyone who has danced in the rain that should have washed you away." I mean, that makes me want to burst out crying. It's just, she has a gift with words, and her love stories are some of my favorites. Okay, let's talk about, I'm already starting with tears. Okay, don't be ridiculous, Kat. Let's go. Let's talk about Omar and Jules. Oh wait, before we do that, something that I love that Dylan also does is that she gives titles to her chapters. And it's like my favorite thing now because I know she does that. So I want to read that and then see how it fits in the chapters. It's amazing. Okay, now I promise we're going to talk about Omar and Jules. Jules, I loved her. There's a vulnerability that Dylan writes organically within her characters that I always connect to, and Jules was no different. Jules has just graduated law school, although the book takes place mostly in London, so it's a little different how they talk about it there. I'm not going to claim to completely understand it, but in my American way, she has just graduated law school and is basically doing an internship at a law firm. She is a smart girl. She has picked herself up from a very sad childhood that comes more to light farther into the book, but she's got her life, she's got some friends. She's a newbie lawyer, and then she also works at a bar and has a good, deep, solid foundation and friendship with the people that own the bar. Omar is the mastermind, as he's been nicknamed. He's a retired professional athlete turned businessman. I freaking loved Omar from the get-go. I mean, it's when the book starts, you kind of feel for him big time. And there is tension in his family around him always being financially responsible for his family. They all work for him. So even though he isn't the pro athlete anymore, he had to pivot and figure out his next way that he's going to make a living. And you feel that pressure. It was very realistic. You kind of wonder about that kind of scenario out in the real world. And I really felt bad for him and felt that weight on his shoulders. He has a disagreement with his dad. Ouch, hurt my heart. But it shows you where he is and why he leaves the US and goes to London for a break. It's from Omar's perspective. He's talking to his dad. I've crossed the line, but I'm too angry to care. I started paying your bills before I was old enough to vote, and you've never asked me how I feel about having to make every single decision with you all in mind because you're completely dependent on me. I stabbed the air with my finger, gesturing between us. And then a little bit later, his temper, which burns as hot as mine, snaps. His voice is nearly a snarl, and he points an accusing finger at me. I've been your backbone when you couldn't stand, your knees when you couldn't figure out how to bend, your fucking brain when you didn't know what to do. Oof. The words slung back and forth between him and his dad in that argument were like stabs to my heart. And Omar's feeling that as well, but he's just had enough and he just needs to go. What we then read is that Omar frequents this bar restaurant, happens to be the same one that Jules works at, and Jules is crushing on him. But he never seems to look at her, catch her eye, take notice of her. She goes to an event with her friend one night, and it's a big party. She's all dressed up. She is hot to trot. And her friend is like, oh yeah, I invited Omar here and friends, but I don't think he has any friends. So whatever, I don't know if he's coming. And Jules is like, oh my God, seriously? And she's like, yeah. And then that situation with Rena was a little uncomfy for me. And if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. I wasn't really sure about that. I was just a little uncomfortable about it. But disregarding that, all of a sudden, Jules finds herself next to Omar and high five, girl shoots her shot. And he kind of blows her off. And I was like, oh, are you going to be a jerk? I don't want you to be a jerk, Omar. Come on, you just had me in your corner. What are you doing? Rena had shared with her before this. She said, Omar's not a lover. He's a one-night stand. Challenge accepted. This whole scene where they meet and converse the first time, I was laughing. I was upset. I could not believe how crazy it was. And it was so utterly perfect. I was like, after this first part of the book, I was like, okay, Dylan, what are you bringing me? Come on, let's go. I loved Jules so much. She's so easy to like. And pretty quickly, I was like a smitten kitten with Omar. Their dialogue, not only when they first meet and talk, but through the rest of the book, is absolute perfection. The way Dylan writes them, they had subtlety down to a science because neither one of them knew that each other was looking at each other for months until this night. This is what Omar says about Jules that Dylan tells us a little bit later, and we realize all of this. But it was her smile, bright and warm as the noonday sun, that makes me nearly swallow my tongue and walk into a wall. He's talking about like when he first saw her months ago in the bar that she works at, that he goes to. I asked the owner of the bar, Dominic, about her as casually and randomly as I could. She was a law student who had worked at the EFRA for 5 years. She was from somewhere in the Midlands and wasn't a football fan at all. Beautiful, hardworking, and didn't seem to know who I was. She was a unicorn. And then a little bit later, I came in every day for 2 weeks until I figured out her schedule and then made sure I was there every time she was working. It was full on creepy, but that smile made me forget it was raining outside. That, I was like, oh, okay. this is why I love Dylan's stories. The way she just unravels everything chapter by chapter. Ugh, I love. One of my very favorite thing that happens in romance books. Not all of them, but when it happens, I'm like a kid in the candy store. I can't wait to read that scene. Is when the characters go to a bar and there's dancing and drinking involved. Tell me you're the same, because you know shit's going down. And let me tell you, it happened in this book. I loved it. I loved it, loved it, love it. I always love those scenes. There's like the fun girl time out on the dance floor with your girlfriend dancing. There's your love interest or your potential love interest or the guy you're trying to be your love interest showing up or there and watching you. That gives you all the feels. Oh my gosh. Him watching other guys notice you dancing with your friend. Like, you know what I mean? I love it. I eat that shit up. And it happened in this book, and I was here for it. There was a little extra something special to the beginning of their relationship. And I don't want to give it away, but it's extra special. And the way Dylan wrote it, like, I felt the heat. The chemistry that these two characters have was on fire. And knowing what we know about it, it was like, wow. And the way it bonded them and how seriously they both took it and what led up to that was so awesome. And I know I'm dancing around it, and I know you're probably frustrated. If you read the book, you probably know what I'm talking about. So I know I'm being a tease, but their chemistry was off the charts. And their sexy time together was just, it felt so organic to them. And that's what I love about love stories. They're all told from different authors' perspective with different characters, and yet there's certain things, there's certain ties that bind them all together and make me love them. And how Dylan writes chemistry between two people, and then add that to how she wrote this between Omar and Jules. It was really good. I was teary. I was fanning myself. Yes, it was really good and extra special. And that continued through the rest of the book because these two have no trouble, not keeping their hands off each other. They just go for it all the time. The drama that Dylan brings in this book made my heart hurt, of course. And I was surprised. We kind of know one thing is happening, but then she brings this whole other thing in that I was like, oh, I did not see that coming. But she also did something with them and their relationship regarding those hurdles that they have to get over. She took me by surprise, not only with the drama, but how she wrote it. I was really glad that she wrote it that way. There's something that they do that not many couples do. And I'm not going to tell you, I feel like I've done that a lot in this video, danced around certain things. But it was like a breath of fresh air to watch these two characters work through that drama in the way that they did. Thank God, because sometimes it's a lot to keep reading. And you know that there's going to be a happily ever after. You hope that there is. My God, I need my happily ever afters, but you never are quite sure. And in this case, there is a happily ever after at the end of this book. Let me know if you have read Dylan's other books, which are your favorites. Do you like the Rivers Wilde series? All that good stuff. I want to hear. If you liked the video, I welcome you to subscribe and come hang out with me regularly. I would love to have you here, and also give the video a thumbs up, because when you do that, it not only helps my channel and the authors whose books I'm talking about, but it also helps this video get shown to more people here on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I will see you very soon.